Faithful. Welcome back to You've Got Mail presented by Delta Dental. I'm your 49ers team reporter, Briana Jeannel, and in today's episode, we have an extra special guest for you today. He is a 3-time Super Bowl champion, a 4-time Pro Bowler, and now a member of the 49ers Hall of Fame, Brent Jones. In today's episode, Brent recaps his iconic legacy here in the Bay Area, and he also gives some insight into today's 49ers football. Here's my conversation with Brent Jones. All right, Brent, what a pleasure, what a treat the faithful get to have to sit down and listen to a 3-time Super Bowl champion, a 4-time Pro Bowler, now a member of the 49ers Hall of Fame, Brent Jones. Brent, thank you for joining me today. Just what are some of the emotions that are going through your head as you're sitting and reflecting on this moment and soon to be inducted this Sunday?
Wow, just so many emotions, and it's amazing to think back. You know, I was a Bay Area kid born and raised, and so to go into the Hall of Fame with your hometown team is remarkable. I'd say it's a dream come true, but I would have never dreamed it. It's that remarkable. But it was emotional when I got the call from Jed back in May, and I just thought he was calling for a 49er function or something, and it completely caught me off guard. I was speechless for probably 10 seconds. I didn't know what to say. And it was really special. But Shelby and the team have been remarkable, setting up the banquet and game day, allowing me to share it with all my family and friends. The 49ers have outrageously gone over the top in the things that they have done and are doing. And so it's just so darn special.
Tell me more about that phone call. When he was first ringing, you mentioned that you thought it might have been for a banquet or maybe a 49ers event. But what did he tell you over the phone to, tell you that you'd be the 33rd member now in the 49ers Hall of Fame?
Yes. So of course, I've talked to Jed probably, 4 or 5 times in the last 7 or 8 years, and it would be about something, he was thinking about, or, hey, my name came up, or something cool like that. So even to have Jed's number in my phone, and so it's a May day, I'm out walking around in shorts, barefoot, and all of a sudden my phone's ringing and it says Jed York, and I'm like, what the heck? What's Jed calling me for? And I just immediately thought, oh, they must be putting together some function or some alumni thing. And so I answered it, and he said, yes, I'm looking for the next member of the 49ers Hall of Fame. And it buckled me. And usually I'm not speechless. And I was kind of like trying to get some words out, and it was probably embarrassing. It probably took me 4 or 5 seconds to say like, what? And so, it was really cool. My wife and I, obviously our kids are grown and on their own, but I walked into the house, and I just had like probably the weirdest smile on my face. And she goes, what's going on? And I go, you're not going to believe it. That was Jed. And I'm going into the Hall of Fame.
Wow.
And she was just so excited. And we obviously called the kids and our family. It was really cool.
That's really cool to hear how the family got to hear the news also. Was there maybe a former teammate that you wanted to call up and also let them know the news, how big it was for you?
So, it's so weird because it's easy to congratulate other guys. It's not typical for me to be, the area of focus. So I didn't want to call, but I did call Steve Young and let him know. He was my roommate all those years, and he was fired up. And so it was great. And then eventually, I told some guys reached out to me after they announced it, and that makes it special. There's a lot of guys coming in for the banquet, which is really cool. Even guys you haven't seen in years, but there's always that connection through the 49ers. And so it's really, truly a brotherhood.
I was about to say, sounds like a family. I love hearing how the news was broke to you and how you were able to share such exciting news to all your close loved ones. Tell me what the process has been like since that call all the way up to this Sunday when you're getting inducted into the Hall of Fame. What have the steps been like as you worked your way to that moment? Well,
the first thing they kind of gave us a list of all the things Shelby and Keena Turner, who's one of my heroes. I mean, he's one of the guys that was a superstar when he played, and when my first year was one of his last years, and so he was always so great to me. So to see him now on personnel and every now and then reaching out with alumni, I'm just so proud of him. But Shelby's become like a daughter, and man, she sends us stuff. She's so organized, and so the first thing she said was, "You know what? We need to get your measurements for the statue, and here's the places in Brooklyn." And we're like, "What? Like, are you kidding?" And so we changed a lot of our plans, and in the next week or so, we flew back to Brooklyn. And there's this company that's been making bronze statues for 75 years. And all the statues that are like in Washington, D.C. and famous places around the country, they've made them. And it's weird. You know, you walk into their studio and there's statues of George Washington, or there was a new one they were doing of the Obamas. And then there's one that they have of Ronald Reagan, and they've kind of have them kind of sitting around. So there's old ones and then there's new ones, and they talk about all the technology, and they're using AI and they scanners, but we need to do molds of your arms. So I had the slime stuff all over my arms. Like, this
is like the nitty gritty details.
It is details. Like it's crazy. I'm like, well, I mean, who has a statue built of themselves? And Guy McIntyre was so gracious. He accompanied us back there, so it was great to have an old friend from the 49ers, and went through that process. And they're like, okay, we're going to have to figure out the day that we're going to honor you, but really we want to make sure the statue's done and in place. And so that was spectacular. And obviously the PR, I've had the opportunity to be on some podcasts and some TV as well, and it was just a blast. And they've kept us in connection with the whole process. Okay, we're going to be sending out invitations. Here's a list of people. We'd love for you to have this many invites, and so let us know. Gathering addresses, doing this. We're getting this thing all ready for a banquet on Saturday night, and so obviously went to my family first, and everybody's, of course, all in. And then some of my college teammates, and growing up in the Bay Area, there's a million people. You wish you could bring everybody.
I can only imagine.
And so, and then I came down and came down for 87 Day to celebrate Dwight. But while I was here, Keena and Shelby said, "Hey, we've got to go and talk about the event, and what do you want?" I'm like, what do I want? That's like, no, you can have whatever you want. What do you want on the menu? How do you want the decorations to be? It's truly been mind-boggling. And then getting everything all set up. My wife has been in constant contact with Shelby. My wife's super organized, so going through the checklist. And it's weird because I got the call in May, and it feels like a year of celebration, and now the time is finally here, and so it's really special, and to watch it all come together, and then of course game day and being able to go out at halftime in front of the fans. It's kind of a cool thing.
Soak it all in. I know the faithful are so excited for this halftime celebration on Sunday. But tell me more about this statue. Have you decided on the pose? Were you in that decision-making process, or will it be a grand reveal during halftime?
So it's funny that so Shelby and Keena sent me a few pictures of things that they thought. I had the ultimate choice of what I wanted, and they nailed it. There was a couple that were spectacular. So we went with one of those, and the statue company and the 49ers have basically said, you don't get to see anything. You don't get to see it until it's unveiled.
Okay.
And so I have not been aware of anything, and there was a huge crate that Shelby took a picture of and showed me this morning. She said, here it is, and it was just a massive, huge crate, and I thought, she's like, you don't get to see it until we unveil it. So I have no idea. My wife has no idea, the family, and that part of it has made it super exciting.
Oh, fun. Okay, we can't wait for the unveiling, and soon it'll be in the 49ers Museum for all of the faithful to come visit with all of the 49ers greats. So again, congratulations. What a special moment. I want to talk a little bit more about just what it's like being a 49ers tight end, because there's so many elite tight ends in 49ers history, from Delaney Walker to Vernon Davis, and now arguably one of the best tight ends in the NFL, George Kittle. Tell me about how just tight ends shine in this West Coast offense.
It is pretty remarkable, and you nailed it. And there were a couple guys that I remember as a kid growing up. Ted Kwolek was one of the all-time great 49er tight ends. And then Russ Francis was here for a lot of years as well. There was a man by the name of Earl Cooper that was the tight end for their first Super Bowl. And so you kind of think about that. And then you mentioned Delaney and Vernon. And now George is my absolute favorite. He just plays the game how it's supposed to be played, and he's got so much energy. And I've never, ever seen him down. Maybe when we lost a big playoff game or the Super Bowl, maybe he was down for 5 minutes. But he'd always find the bright side, and he'd always be back and ready to go. And his energy, just to have met him and been around him a handful of times, he's one of those guys that you just want to root for. And he's so much fun, and he's spectacular. So the combination, sometimes guys are great on the field and not off. He's the whole package, which really makes it cool. So it's fun to see him in the line of tight ends, and it just seems to continue. But the 49ers, it sure feels like, have been blessed with a lot of great players at the position.
Definitely a legacy that you have absolutely made your mark on. Now, before we started recording the podcast, we were catching up, and you were talking about how you've been following the season very closely and how a whirlwind of a season it's been. Tell me, would you say the tight end position has changed dramatically since you played, or do you think the workload that's put on this position, knowing the run game, the passing game, blocking, is it pretty much consistent?
It has been remarkable to see kind of the evolution of the tight end, and I kind of felt like I was there when it was starting to happen, but the way it has gone right now, and certainly the way George plays the game, is all out, and he's asked to do so much. I used to say when I played, hey, we're clearly the second smartest guys on the team behind the quarterback, and I said we have to know all the run game and the pass game and where everybody is and how that kind of works in sync, and I feel like George is absolutely that guy. I'm not in the huddle, but I'm sure he's telling guys what to do all the time because he knows everything that you're supposed to do. But no, it's just been great, and the position is so demanding, and I think that's why there's a real brotherhood amongst tight ends, because it's demanding, and sometimes you don't get all the accolades of the big fancy wide receivers or the quarterbacks, and so it's great. I think that there's just such a unique awareness of the position, and so there's a great brotherhood. But yes, tight ends are asked to do an awful lot. The expectations are high, and George has certainly lived up to those.
If there's one thing I know, it's that tight ends can absolutely do it all. So it's so fun to see how it's evolved over the years. Let's reminisce for just a bit. I want to look back on those iconic 10 years you played as a 49er, winning Super Bowls, going to the Pro Bowl. You've lived and created one of the greatest eras of 49ers football. Just how special is that to you? It's
super special, and it's funny because when you're going through it, when you're in your 20s and 30s, life just is coming at you, and you just live it each day. You don't really have time to reflect or look back, and sometimes you don't appreciate all the things that you have. In thinking back to my career, we won the division 10 times the 11 years that I played. I was in 7 NFC championship games, and it just sounds astounding to think that. And I played with some of the greatest, arguably the greatest players to ever play the game. And it was such a special time, such a special feeling to be part of that and be going through it. And now all these years looking back to realize how instrumental it was in the overall history of the National Football League. And there's only a handful of teams that can say that. And the San Francisco 49ers clearly are one of those teams.
Mm-hmm. And we can go full storytelling here. Tell me some of your favorite memories that either made you laugh or make you proud as you look back on your career with your teammates here in the Bay Area?
Oh, there's so many great moments. I think I'm proud of my teammates now, looking back, for how spectacular we were when we played and the level at which we competed and desired to win the Super Bowl every year. And we were completely focused on that. But even more than that, the type of men that these guys have become or have been. There's something to be said for the way that this organization is run. And it started with Eddie DeBartolo, and the York family and Jed specifically have not only continued that legacy, but I think added to it. And so there's a real special family feeling when you're part of the San Francisco 49ers, and it means something. And I promise most teams don't have that. And it's just not the way it is, but we have it here, and it's awesome. Some of the great memories were so many funny things. We used to have a few pranksters on the team, and I was one of them because I felt there's so much pressure and stress in the game that I just felt like you're better if you were loose and relaxed when you played. So we used to have a exploding pen, and of course, being on the 49ers, you're always signing stuff. So we'd give it to guys to sign stuff, and it would explode. And, after 5 or 6 weeks, it would kind of, everybody would say, hey, I'm not signing with that pen or not. But
the joke got old.
But we switched to the exploding wallet. And so every plane trip, we'd put a $20 bill and leave it on the exploding wallet. And people would walk down the pathways, getting on the plane to go sit in their seat. And they'd always bend down like, oh, hey, somebody dropped their wallet. And it was loud.
Oh, my goodness.
And it would explode. And so we did it for like 6 or 7 weeks. We got every flight attendant. We got almost every person on the team. And so we put it down for like one of our last road trips of the year. And everybody just stepped over it, sat there for a couple hours. And then George Seifert was coming back to the back of the plane. He typically wouldn't. And I had kind of forgotten. And out of the corner of my eye, I saw him bend down. I'm like, oh, no. And he opened it, and it exploded so loud. And he was so afraid and so scared, and he got so mad, and his face turned red, and he started yelling at me, and our equipment guy, Ted Walsh, said, I know it was one of you guys. I'm keeping the $20, and he stormed off. And so just like little things like that, like I'm glad he didn't cut me.
How funny. Oh, my goodness. Those memories are something that you cherish and you laugh about for a lifetime. You've also talked about how in your playing days, you put on this game day persona, how it's almost two different people. There's the Brent outside of football, and there's the Brent once game day comes around. Which teammate do you think had the best alter ego when it got closer to kickoff, you saw them really kick into gear?
That is a great question, and I need to think about it. But, so many of our guys were gentlemen mostly off the field, but on the field they could turn it up, and they'd be pretty darn nasty. I think of a couple guys. Guy McIntyre was quiet, soft-spoken off the field. But man, once the game started, you did not mess with him. He was a guy not to be fooled with. I also think Tom Rathman was pretty dang serious on the field. He was pretty blood and guts, but just a good old country boy off the field. And then, of course, the all-time greatest is Ronnie Lott, one of my favorite guys off the field and on the field since he was on my team. Now, if I had to play against him, he wouldn't be my favorite, but he's in a different zone when he's on the field. A dear guy, a great guy, a giving, caring guy off the field, super thoughtful, super wise. On the field, he's insane, and you don't want to be anywhere near him if you're not on the 49ers.
How lucky are we to call him a 49er? What a pleasure to get to know what it's like on the field during that era of iconic 49ers football. Now, if you had to give rookie year, Brent Jones, one piece of advice, knowing everything you know now, what do you think that'd be?
I was afraid to speak rookie year for the most part. You just got to stay low key, do your job. I think to continue to study the players around you. I was blessed to be on the team at a time where Dwight Clark, it was his last year. I had a burgeoning Jerry Rice. I had a second-year John Taylor. And those guys, the way that they would work, you know what? Let me add Roger Craig, because I think Roger Craig helped set the standard in terms of intensity during practice. The way that they practiced, all of those guys, was off the charts. So if I was a rookie again, I mean, it took me a while to learn it. And of course, you're working hard, but I would spend more time studying every single thing that those handful of guys did and try to emulate their practice habits.
You know, we still hear that same saying from players on the team now. And as they're practicing or they're in meeting rooms or it's simple day-to-day activities, they say they want to look towards the Fred Warner, the Nick Bosa, the George Kittles on the little mannerisms or the little practices you pick up, and that's what makes you so great. So to hear that same mentality that you shared back during the iconic history of the 49ers still live in the locker room today is really special to hear.
That is super cool. It's great to hear, and I'm not surprised because this is a unique team, and I liken it to our team back in the days. The locker room was special. It's impossible to win the Super Bowl, in my opinion, without a strong locker room. And a lot of teams have a lot of talent, but don't have a strong locker room. And when there's dissension in the locker room, it eventually shows up on the field, and you're never going to win it all without a strong locker room.
Well, as we're talking about these guys, I've heard your grandsons are huge 49ers fans. How have they reacted to the Hall of Fame news?
They went crazy. And they're only 5 and 7, which is weird that they know. But I think, and I've shared this before, my youngest had, when he turned 4, his birthday party was a Brock Purdy birthday. He's obsessed with Brock Purdy. Every jersey he has for every one of his sports he plays football, baseball, and basketball. He's number 13.
I love it.
He made an arm sleeve, a Brock Purdy arm sleeve for this Hall of Fame weekend. They absolutely get it. My oldest grandson thinks he's Christian McCaffrey. These guys, they do things. They both have iPads that Grandpa got them. They go back and they Google highlights of both of those players, and they sit and watch them for hours.
Wow.
So my oldest is trying to work juke moves like Christian, and he's looking and studying and going, well, he would have done this and this. And I grew up loving football. But I don't think that I was even close to that in tune at age 5 and 7. I bet they both have 14 Niner jerseys. And so eventually I had to stop buying each iteration of Brock Purdy and Christian. So now they love Fred Warner. So now we've got some Fred Warners. We've got some Nick Bosas. So we're expanding. You know, they met George. How do you not love George Kittle? I mean, he's just the best. So they act like these guys are their friends. Like, hey, yeah. Like my little guy's like, hey, you think if I see Brock this weekend, he'll remember my name? Oh, yeah, Case, I'm sure he'll remember you. Yeah.
It's like, how sweet.
Yeah, so they're totally into it, which makes it so great for me because I'm already a fan. I already love it, but I'm invigorated that much more by their love for the game and the team.
Absolutely love to hear it. And yes, it's family, just like we talked about at the top of the podcast. Truly, once you're a Niner, you're forever a Niner. So they are friends and family with George, Brock, and everyone. I'm assuming they'll be at the game on Sunday.
Oh, my gosh, they are. And I think they're going to be allowed to go out for the coin toss with me. And
wow.
They are going to be beside themselves.
What a moment!
For a little kid whose favorite team, and I mean they have no idea how big these guys are going to be on game day with their pads and cleats and how intense it is, and they are going to be beside themselves.
I know. They must be ecstatic. All right. We're going to close out today's episode with a fun little game. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Awesome. So let me grab my phone because this game is called the 2-minute drill. I'm going to put 2 minutes on my timer, and I'm going to see how many questions you can answer in those 2 minutes. Are you ready?
Okay.
Awesome.
I'm nervous.
You got this. It should be pretty simple. We're pulling up the timer now. We've got 2 minutes on the clock, and we start now. First question. What is your hidden talent?
That's an impossible one. My hidden talent was I was pretty good at baseball.
Nice. Love it. Now, what was the hardest game you've ever played in?
Hardest game I ever played in was the New York Giants 1990. We lost in the last couple minutes. We gave the ball away, and we're going to go win our 3rd Super Bowl in a row.
What's one word to describe the 49ers era that you played in?
Legendary.
What is one word to describe this 49ers team?
Man, on the cusp. I guess that's 3 words.
I'll take it. Which teammate made you laugh the most?
Darren Jordan.
All right, Darren. Now, what's the most underrated part of playing tight end?
The most underrated part of playing tight end is what is underrated? I don't know. You have me stumped.
All no worries.
Pass.
We'll pass on that one. You still got a minute left. Your current favorite 49ers player to watch?
George Kittle.
That was an easy one. Biggest football pet peeve?
Biggest football pet peeve? Bad officiating.
I hear you. Best advice you ever received?
Best advice you ever received? My dad growing up as a football coach, and he said, hey, if we're going to practice, you're going to do it right.
Do it right the first time.
Yep.
I love it. What was your favorite pregame meal?
My favorite pregame meal would be a filet because I just wanted to eat some meat, wanted to get some protein, but didn't eat a whole lot of food before.
None of the filler.
None
Straight
of the
to the
filler.
protein. Toughest defender you ever lined up against?
I mean, it was Lawrence Taylor.
I hear you.
He's scared. I wasn't afraid of anybody, but I didn't want him to kill Joe or Steve.
All right. Now we'll get into some fun ones. Early bird or night owl?
Early bird.
Oh, and we hit 2 minutes.
Perfect.
But how about we close it out? You won. You pretty much got all the questions. Final ones. What's your favorite movie, Brent?
My favorite movie, there's so many, but I have to say most recently, I love Remember the Titans.
I mean, that's such a classic,
It's
right?
so cool.
And then there was just 2 more questions up on here. Best TV show from the 80s or 90s?
Oh my gosh. It had to be Seinfeld.
Classic. Again, best meal you could cook. Final question.
Ooh, best meal I could cook. Believe it or not, I was taught to make manicotti by my mom.
Nice.
Yeah.
Really cool.
Yeah.
Awesome, Brent. Thank you so much for joining
Oh,
us on
you
You've
have
Got
been
Mail.
amazing.
You are such a pleasure. And again, congratulations on making your way to the 49ers Hall of Fame. We can't wait to celebrate you this Sunday.
Oh, thank you so much.
All right, Faithful, thank you so much for tuning into this episode of You've Got Mail presented by Delta Dental. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on YouTube, SiriusXM, and all your favorite podcast platforms. We'll see you next time, and go Niners.